November 2nd, 2025. The Caribbean Sea lay in absolute silence. Beneath a black horizon, USS Knights, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer valued at $2.5 billion carrying 1,000 sailors, was on a routine humanitarian mission, assisting two civilian oil tankers reporting engine failure 34 nautical miles off the Venezuelan coast. But in Caracas, officials declared it a U.S. invasion. The order followed: engage immediately. Minutes later, Venezuela's frigate Bolivar 213, a $750 million warship armed with 20 Chinese-made C-802A anti-ship missiles, launched 12 rounds toward USS Knights. The ship's commanders believed raw firepower meant victory. They were wrong. Washington answered in silence. Operation Steel Response was activated. USS Mason advanced, carrying Tomahawk Block 5 missiles, while overhead, two F-35C Lightning IIs, each armed with 6 AGM-158C LRSM missiles valued at $3.8 million apiece, took to the sky. The objective was clear: erase Venezuela's naval pride. Could the U.S. destroyer stop that sudden wave of fire? Or would Venezuela's missiles tear through a $2.5 billion warship? Let's uncover the truth. At 4:18 a.m. on November 2nd, 2025, the USS Knights moved silently through the dark waters of the Southern Caribbean. As a $2.5 billion Arleigh Burke-class destroyer carrying 1,000 sailors, it was conducting a routine patrol. Its mission was simple: to assist two civilian oil tankers reporting engine trouble to the south after receiving distress messages from stranded crew members. It was standard procedure, nothing more than an act of professional maritime courtesy in international waters. However, inside Venezuela's coastal command center near Puerto Cabello, a single flash on the radar screen changed everything. A fast-moving contact appeared 34 nautical miles off their coast, legally permissible, yet politically explosive. Within 90 seconds, senior officers labeled it an intrusion. A U.S. warship is approaching the territorial boundary, the report read. Admiral Rafael Morales, known for his uncompromising directives, did not hesitate. He ordered an active interception. His response? Deploy Bolivar 213, a $750 million Venezuelan warship launched at high speed. It was equipped with 20 C-802A anti-ship missiles manufactured by China, each capable of flying at Mach 2, skimming the sea just 5 meters above the surface. These missiles were designed to sink aircraft carriers. A single one could tear a destroyer in half. Aboard the Knights, radar operators detected the Venezuelan ship accelerating, 12 nautical miles, then 22, then 26, in less than 4 minutes, racing straight toward them. The commanding officers ordered clear, calm radio transmissions in both English and Spanish. Venezuelan Navy vessel, this is USS Knights. We are operating in international waters. Silence. No response, no acknowledgement. Only the radar return. Brighter, closer, more deliberate. At 4:32 a.m., without warning or negotiation, Bolivar 213 launched 12 anti-ship missiles in a coordinated attack. They roared across the water, skimming at a deadly low altitude. 12 warheads, each carrying 165 kilograms of explosive, speeding toward the U.S. destroyer. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not caution. This was a deliberate act, a decision that pulled the Caribbean to the brink of war. 4:34 a.m. The moment the 12 Venezuelan missiles tore the sea, Commander Ethan Cole did not blink. With more than 3,000 hours of combat command experience, he knew hesitation would kill them all. Aboard the USS Knights, the Combat Information Center CIC sprang to life. Red lights flashed. Alarm sirens screamed down the steel corridors. Every sailor knew what that sound meant. Missiles incoming, 12 of them, closing at nearly 1,500 miles per hour. He planted himself on the bridge, his voice cutting through the chaos. Activate the Aegis combat system. All batteries online. Fire Control Alpha, engage. Within 5 seconds, 20 SM-6 interceptor missiles launched from the destroyer's Mk-41 vertical launch tubes, streaking into the Caribbean sky at Mach 3.5. Each interceptor was a $4 million guided dart steered by an AI-enhanced radar array capable of locking a supersonic target within 1.5 seconds of detection. The first intercept occurred just 12.7 nautical miles from the ship's hull. Then another, and more followed. Each C-802A was successively erased in mid-air, exploding in dazzling flashes, like artificial lightning over the Black Sea. The crew counted 11 out of 12 Venezuelan missiles torn apart in the sky, bursting into blazing spheres of fire. But one missile broke through. At 4:37 a.m., the final C-802A slammed into the Knight's aft repair deck, detonating at the waterline. The blast ripped open part of the maintenance bay, shearing away backup hydraulic assemblies, steel fittings, and electrical pallets like shrapnel. A wave of heat and overpressure washed across the deck. Fuel tanks ruptured, producing a fireball burning at 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit, 730 degrees Celsius. 2 sailors were trapped within the blast radius, suffering third-degree burns. 10 others were wounded by flying debris, including a petty officer who lost hearing in his left ear. Within 40 seconds, damage control teams Bravo and Delta sealed the deck, firefighting systems activated, and CO2 foam was sprayed into the area to smother the blaze. Medical personnel carried the wounded out amid the wailing alarms. Despite the chaos, the ship held. The Knight's armored hull, reinforced with Kevlar cladding, absorbed the impact. Power remained online. Propulsion remained functional. The Knights, wounded but alive, continued to fight. From the CIC, encrypted video and sensor data streamed directly to the Pentagon via secure satellite link. By 5 a.m., real-time footage of the missile strike was playing on screens inside the White House Situation Room. Flames, smoke, the stars and stripes flickering above a scarred deck. President Trump watched the blaze light the ship's deck. In the corner of the room, General Robert Hastings, Chief of Naval Operations, leaned forward and spoke words that changed the tone of the morning. "They fired on our ship without cause. This is not a mistake. This is a declaration." In that instant, a $2.5 billion destroyer had survived the unthinkable. Washington's patience had not. The orders were clear, ready to respond. The next move would not be defensive. It would be revenge. Would America answer with a measured hand, or a hammer that the Caribbean would never forget? At 5:45 a.m., the smoke aboard the USS Knights had cleared, but Washington's anger had not. Inside the White House Situation Room, intelligence screens showed a smoking deck, 2 wounded sailors, and irrefutable evidence. The attack was deliberate. President Donald Trump signed an emergency order under Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. Restore deterrence. Do not escalate beyond the shore. The Pentagon's codename, Operation Steel Response. At 5:48 a.m., an encrypted order was sent to the USS Mason, another Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, positioned 170 nautical miles east of Barbados. Its mission? Steam west toward the Delta Caribbean area at high speed and prepare to engage. At the same time, at Naval Air Station Cecil Field, Florida, 2 F-35C. Lightning IIs launched into the dawn. Each carried 6 AGM-158 CLRASMS. Each missile worth $3.8 million and capable of striking targets up to 300 miles away. Their total load, nearly 2,000 pounds of precision-guided warheads, was now pointed at the Venezuelan coastline. Meanwhile, U.S. Space Command satellite imagery confirmed Bolivar 213 was withdrawing toward La Guaira Naval Port, leaving a trail of smoke. Inside Mason's command center, Captain Trent McAllister watched the feed closely, eyes fixed. They're retreating, but they're still armed. We will interdict before they can rearm. At 6:27 a.m., the fleet reached engagement range, 38 nautical miles off Venezuela's waters. Communications were maintained. All transmissions were recorded as evidence of restraint. Surveillance drones streamed intelligence directly to Washington and Norfolk. Every move was tracked. Every signal was logged. The objective was not only retaliation, it was proof. At 6:31 a.m., the Caribbean crossed the red line. Defense shifted to offense. Destroyers locked coordinates. F-35Cs switched to low observable mode, invisible to radar. Every calculation was cold. Every move cautious. No emotion, no conjecture. The U.S. Navy was about to respond with precision fires. Not revenge, but correction. Stay with me. The retaliation you're about to see changes everything. 7:10 a.m. The Caribbean horizon burned orange, not from sunrise but from the shadow of war. The USS Mason had reached the 34 nautical mile line off the Venezuelan coast, where the boundary between restraint and retribution had vanished. Aboard, 250 sailors stood at full combat readiness. This was not diplomacy. It was a chess match played with missiles. The Venezuelan frigate was now racing west toward La Guaira at 33 knots, its radar crew still cautious of other threats, when they detected a strange signal nearby. But they were confident in their final layer of defense. That confidence showed on their faces. Laughter was said to echo through the comms room. They had no idea they were walking into a trap. In a multi-layered deception maneuver, at 7:18 a.m., the Mason fired 7 Tomahawk Block 5 missiles, not to destroy, but to provoke. Each $2 million cruise missile, flying at 550 miles per hour, blazed bright and obvious, designed to draw the enemy's full attention. And it worked. The trap had sprung. The Venezuelan defense teams panicked, launching 14 surface-to-air missiles in under 85 seconds, nearly 70% of their remaining air defenses. Sensors confirmed it. The missiles had exploded. Radar officers cheered. They thought they had won. They never saw the ghosts descending from above. At 7:21 a.m., high overhead at 45,000 feet, 2 F-35C Lightning IIs dropped into full stealth mode. Their heat signatures masked, radar profiles near invisible, they sliced through the sky like phantoms. Each fighter released 6 AGM-158C LRAS-M missiles, each capable of locking onto the ship's thermal signature from more than 200 nautical miles away. 12 missiles, flying at Mach 2.5, streaked straight toward the unsuspecting Venezuelan warship. At 7:23 a.m., all 12 struck within 3.8 seconds. The first warhead vaporized the bow. 2 more collapsed the flight deck. The 5th detonated beneath the bridge, killing 14 command officers instantly. The final missiles exploded below the waterline, a combined blast equivalent to 2,500 kilograms of TNT. The Bolívar 213, once the pride of Venezuela's navy, was now a ball of fire. Split in half, steel twisted and burning, sinking slowly into the Caribbean depths. Over 120 sailors were thrown into the sea. At least 60 were missing within the first hour. By 7:30 a.m., all was silent. Then the transmission came. This engagement is concluded. No further hostile intent. And just like that, silence returned to the Caribbean. But it was not peace. It was the echo of precision, a warning wrapped in restraint. A message had been sent, and the world held its breath. By midday, November 2nd, 2025, the smoke had finally lifted over the Caribbean. Satellite images from the U.S. Space Command showed what no one in Washington or Caracas could deny. The Venezuelan frigate Bolívar 213 had been reduced to a charred skeleton resting 240 feet below the surface, its hull split cleanly in two. The aftermath spread faster than the flames. Within 1 hour, over 200 global news outlets broadcast the footage. The black plume visible from orbit, the coastline scorched, and 17 survivors pulled from an oil-stained sea. Inside the Pentagon, analysts reviewed the engagement frame by frame. The verdict? USS Knights had remained 34 nautical miles from Venezuela's shore, well outside any territorial boundary. The Venezuelan government, however, claimed incursion. Repairs to the USS Knights began immediately. Damage assessment estimated $28 million in structural loss, including 3 destroyed fuel pods and 47 tons of burned deck material. 2 sailors remained in critical condition. The destroyer's onboard data log recorded the event in 9.4 terabytes of encrypted footage, every radar ping, every missile lock, every explosion. That file was transmitted directly to the National Archives and the UN Security Council, leaving no space for denial. At 3 p.m., President Donald Trump addressed the nation from the Roosevelt Room. America does not seek war, but we will never apologize for defending our people. Those who mistake our silence for weakness will regret their calculation. The message reverberated across the world. Global markets dipped 1.8%. Oil futures surged past $104 per barrel, the highest since 2022. Military analysts called it the shortest naval war in modern history, 12 minutes from launch to destruction, 0 American deaths, 1 frigate erased, and an entire doctrine rewritten. In Caracas, silence reigned. No official statement for 36 hours. No morning broadcast. State television played patriotic music over footage of calm seas, but the people knew. A fleet had fallen, and with it, the illusion of control. By nightfall, the Caribbean was quiet again. No missiles. No sirens. Only the slow churn of waves over a shattered warship. A steel reminder that in modern warfare, one wrong decision can cost a nation its dignity, its navy, and its voice. And the world watched, realizing that the line between peace and annihilation was just 34 nautical miles wide. By the end of that day, November 2nd, 2025, the Caribbean returned to silence. But beneath that calm surface lay a scar that satellites could not capture and words could not erase. The water where Bolivar 213 sank shimmered like glass under the dying sun, a mirror reflecting the cost of pride. The numbers would later speak louder than any speech. 12 missiles launched, 20 interceptors fired, $900 million lost, 137 sailors dead or missing, and a conflict that lasted less than 15 minutes, from first launch to final silence. Yet the consequences rippled across the hemisphere. Insurance markets froze. Oil tankers rerouted hundreds of miles away. Regional militaries went on alert. The Caribbean, once a sea of trade and sunlight, had become the most monitored body of water on Earth. In Washington, the footage of the strike played on a silent loop in the Situation Room, not as victory, but as a warning. Even the most advanced systems, the most disciplined forces, could be pulled into chaos by a single misread signal. America had prevailed not through aggression, but through precision and control. The twin pillars that separated deterrence from destruction. In Caracas, the silence of leadership became its own admission. The nation's flagship lay at the bottom of the sea, its wreckage still leaking oil and memory. Families waited at the docks for sons who would never return. As night fell, the ocean swallowed the last fragments of steel. Only the waves remembered. For history would mark November 2nd, 2025, not as a day of triumph or defeat, but as the morning when fire met discipline, and the world was reminded that restraint, not rage, is what keeps civilization afloat. If you value this kind of analysis and want to keep uncovering the real lessons behind today's conflicts, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue bringing you the untold stories of modern warfare.
Tell me where the freaks at.